Florida, Jon and Tom stand tall, discussing corruption, answering the call. Osceola's whispers, the truth we unveil. With each podcast episode, we set sail. Unsanctioned voices, we won't be ignored. Taking through lies, we strike a chord. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Politicians trembling, they know we're awake. With facts on our side, we're here to shake. From local elections to making it clear, together we rise, let's spread the fear. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. Jon and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. So tune in each week, don't miss the show. Jon and Tom will help you know. You can get some.
Hello everyone, this is John Arguello, former school board member and your host for Unsanctioned Florida. Florida is known today probably more than ever before as a red state, and that has been really good news for most of America. It's led to sayings like, "Make America Florida." But there's a deeper, darker side to Florida politics that most Floridians either don't know about, or for those who are involved, are deeply ashamed of. It's become known as swamp politics. Tonight, we're going to talk about these swamp politics as it impacts counties throughout the state of Florida, leading to the disenfranchisement of grassroots Republicans who normally support President Trump by so-called rhinos who are as honest about their local elections as the Democrats are with national elections.
Hello, friends. This is Citizen Tom Lord, producer and co-host of Unsanctioned Florida. The media tells us that Osceola County turned red this election cycle. But did you know that out of 21 local races, excluding the presidential race, only 6 Republicans or so-called Republicans won their race here in Osceola County? That's 28%, and when you take out those that are listed as NPAs, it's less than 20%. That doesn't sound like a red wave to me, and it sure doesn't sound like Osceola County turned red. This is due to the failure of the state and local Republican Party. Now, on the last Florida show, we told you we could do a whole show illustrating how the local Republican Party failed candidates here in Osceola County, and with the help of some guests, we're going to show you just how Osceola County's red wave failed.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
Today is especially meaningful because we're marking some important milestones in Osceola County history. One of the milestones that we continue to have is that we have 3 women on the county commission. Which I'd like to point out that Mary Jane Arrington actually forged that for us years ago. So go girl power. And I'm going to have your mother sit next to you, Ricky, so when you make comments like that, she can smack you. You got it? And of course, I have to mention Commissioner Arrington, who is the senior member of this board. Okay, technically I'm the oldest, but it's 4 terms and counting, which is quite a legacy. That says quite a bit to your dedication to this community and the fact that they reelected you again. I don't know if that's just, again, the dedication or a little bit of crazy in there, but we are so glad that you've been reelected. Before we begin the swearing in, I just want to take a moment to recognize the work of each of the commissioners has done for the community. I think it's telling that all 3 were reelected by such strong margins.
Nepotism and cronyism on full display at that meeting, John, and we're going to get to that later on in the show, but how are you doing, John? Is everything okay? Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I'm doing great. I'm doing absolutely great. I did have a great Thanksgiving. I had food poisoning over Thanksgiving, actually, just prior.
Ew.
So I spent it alone for the most part. And but you know what? I was extremely thankful that still pretty happy that we won an election. And so I might have had food sickness, but I'd still be throwing up if Kamala Harris won the election. So welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. And we are going to have some great guests. But before we do, there's a lot to explain on why we would have this show. And we said it on the last episode that we could have an entire show just on this problem. These swamp politics, the nepotism, the failure of our parties to be able to consolidate any kind of effort in order to win local elections in Osceola County. But before we go into the local county, we have to understand that Osceola County is a microcosm of the party at large and the state at large, right? The state and its empire. So this is not something that's new. It's not something that people are not going to recognize. In fact, even though we're going to be talking about Osceola County tonight, we're going to start about the federal and state politics. This is something that people are experiencing and they're going to recognize. So we have a couple of good friends that are going to explain to us. This is not just Jon Arguello. And Jon Arguello is a guy who's been complaining about us losing elections in Osceola County for a long time. I've complained about not taking the initiative when we have super majorities in the House and the Senate and not being able to accomplish things. So nobody's going to hear anything new from me. But you will hear from some good guests who are much brighter, have great reputations, and who have been at the forefront of the conservative gains in Florida. That led to people like Corey Mills, for example, winning, right? Taking part in that kind of wave. And people who understand, most importantly, that it's more valuable to the public to be honest about what our situation is than to just pretend, oh, as long as we win the presidency, then everybody should be happy, right? That's not enough for me. For me, it's all about having people with integrity lead in the state. And so this is a guy that we're about to bring on, a good friend of mine, David Pollack from the Dave Pollack Show, which is on Monday night. I'll let him talk about his show. But he sent out a tweet recently, today, and there was a lot of conversation about it. And what his tweet, I'm going to let him explain it, but it's something that you've heard on this show many, many times before, that it is not the GOP that's causing these gains. It's Trump alone, right? It's the force of Trump that has led to our state going completely red as opposed to being a swing state. Now we're a tier 2 state. But anyways, I'm going to let him talk about that. What I'm going to do is say our quick prayer that we normally do, and then we're going to get bring David on, and David's going to explain to us what happened in the elections and why it's the Trump factor as opposed to the GOP in the state, and what we need to do going forward. Right? And so he's got another commitment after this show, so he's only going to be on with us a short while, but we're going to make use of it right now. So anyways, let me get this prayer out of the way, and then we're going to do it. Lord God, we are super appreciative. We just celebrated Thanksgiving. Many families got together, and many of those families are coming together with the idea, the understanding, and so much optimism for the future because of these elections. People are dancing. People are laughing. People are looking forward to a future where they don't have to be concerned so deeply with politics. And that's a gift that Trump has given us, because I think a lot of people have confidence that Trump is going to make this country something that we've recognized in the past, where politics doesn't have to be the first thing that people talk about when they meet. And that's a blessing in and of itself. But we're truly appreciative for Thanksgiving, for our country, for being able to focus on our families, for a future outlook that has a great economy, peace around the world, peace within our country, and an opportunity for us to come together as a country and just enjoy the special rights that we have in this country that no other citizen from another country enjoys. In your son's name, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
All right, let's welcome to the show David Pollack. David is a local Central Florida guy. He's one of the smartest people I know, an attorney, radio host from David Pollack Show. David, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Great. Man, that's another blessing that we have today, is that you are joining us. I can't wait to hear. I saw your tweet earlier today, and I was like, I got to have David on. David's got to tell us what he was thinking. It was a short, concise tweet. Now let's hear the long version. Tell us what your tweet said, and tell us why you wrote it.
It's a post, not a tweet.
Post.
Would
that's right.
drop you off that platform for calling it that.
Nobody follows me anyway.
The tweet post, now you got me mixed up. The post really was kind of a long post actually for X, but essentially there was a post that somebody put out talking about how Trump made 5 states swing states now. I think it was New Jersey and a handful of others. New Jersey caught my eye for a few different reasons, but and the argument was Trump made these states swing states now. We should be happy about this. And I just corrected the record and said Trump made these states swing states, not Republicans. So when Republicans go and throw all their money into these races, backing the wrong candidates and lose, they shouldn't sit there shocked with their mouth open, because they don't understand that it's Trump that made those states swing states, not Republicans. And it's a very important distinction, because we saw this happen in 2016 after Trump's breaking down the red wave, the blue wall that wasn't a blue wall.
Yep.
And Trump takes the blue wall. Republicans say, oh, wait, we can win in these states. And they try to emulate Trump in a very unsuccessful way. And then we saw losing majorities in the House and the Senate. We saw a 2020 election where we didn't win. We saw a 2020 red wave that wasn't. We saw a 2022 red wave that wasn't. And then we saw a resurgence of MAGA and American First in 2024, and you see the result. It wasn't Republicans that did this, it was Trump. And it's an important lesson because, and you talk about local politics, I've seen in places like Osceola, I have seen really good America First MAGA candidates get squashed by the Republican establishment, both at the state level and at the federal level, because they didn't come up in their club. They didn't fetch coffee on the Hill or in Tallahassee. They didn't get permission to run. They weren't recruited to run. Instead, they saw a need and they wanted to serve their country and carry forward the American first principles that Trump invented. And they got squashed by this establishment that's threatened by it. And so it's an important thing. And that was the basis, or at least the premise of my post, was that, yeah, I'm glad that we're getting new swing states and we've had the largest switch from Democrat to Republican, but it's not really a switch from Democrat to Republican. What we're seeing is a shift from people who vote Democrat to conservative. And it's Trump that delivered that, not Republicans. Now, I'm not saying it's not the Republican Party. Trump's a Republican, but it's Trump's Republican Party. So it's really important, if we're going to maintain these swing state victories into the future and maybe flip some more, that we learn from what Trump did so successfully. And that's the premise of it.
Man, you're 100% right. And it's not only that Trump is behind it, right? He's the force behind it. But the GOP, it happened in spite of the GOP, not because of the GOP, right? I mean, literally, they kept people home in Osceola County. Trump killed in Osceola County. They would have never dreamed it. Romney lost Osceola County, I think, by 27 points. And then Trump comes and wins by 5. That's like a serious, you can't underestimate the impact that Trump had. And yet, we lost the congressional seat. We didn't lose it. We never had it, but we didn't gain it when we think we could have. That's a seat of opportunity. The state Senate seat, the House seats, we lost the House seat. We gained that House seat, which had a tail end of Osceola County, but that's, we got a bad candidate from it. If we had had good candidates, then we would have been able to really just shift the entire, we would have destroyed the Democratic Party, right? This is like their stronghold. This is where they think that they're the strongest. And it would have been obliterated, and it's just a shame. So I'm just heartbroken. We left it on the table. That's what DeSantis said in the last election in 2020. And now we didn't leave it on the table. We left even more. We went and put it on the table.
We gave it away.
We gave it away, yeah.
Well, we didn't give it away. They gave it away.
They gave it away.
That's the distinction. We worked. The candidates worked. I think of people like Scotty Moore, who raised almost $1 million on his own going door to door when he ran against Darren Soto in 2022. The GOP did nothing to help him at the state or federal level. It was more the grassroots organization, Mark Meadows' organization, General Flynn's organization, and so on and so forth, that actually gave him some support. But the GOP, by and large, left all that money out of his race. He could have been made that race against Soto competitive. And as a result, this year, we might have actually flipped that seat. But that didn't happen because they ignored those races because they're not winnable. You see this all the time. The GOP puts their money behind what they view as being winnable races. Then they go and get the perfect candidate for those winnable races. They pump them full of money, and then they welcome them to Washington, D.C. with open arms and say, these are the committees you get to sit on as long as you vote a certain way. And as soon as you cross them, you vote a different way, you find yourself like George Santos. They're kicked out before they even finish a federal prosecution on a BS ethics investigation that shouldn't have been concluded until the federal crimes that he was being charged with concluded. You see what they did to Matt Gaetz. They wouldn't even confirm him as Attorney General, even though Trump had the mandate and the authority to put him in that place, and yet the Senate won't even give him who he wants. This is going to keep happening until, honestly, I don't know what the secret is going to be until we really work hard at a local level, getting grassroots organizations work hard to take these candidates and get them properly funded and put them in these positions and replace the establishment with MAGA America First. But just because we won the White House doesn't mean that we've defeated the establishment. We've already seen them pushing back in the Senate. They're going to push back in the House, where our majority is razor thin there, and they're going to push back on Trump. And everybody's really excited about Kash Patel, me certainly. Wait till you see the hard time. I'm not even sure he'll get confirmed. I mean, this is the thing. We want to beat down the establishment. We want to beat down the woke left. We want to beat down the communists in this country. But every time we win, they can't help but force us to lose. It was John McCain's thumbs down is the reason why we still have Obamacare. Republicans have hurt Republicans more than the Democrats ever hoped to. With the Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives in 2022, they eliminated the debt ceiling. We went further into debt, $6 trillion now? Republicans gave this to us.
Yeah.
Not Trump Republicans, but those Republicans. And so it is our party, and we are Republicans, and if we want to take it back, we have to keep fighting. John, you fought. We have to keep fighting, but we have to find money. And I'm hoping with Elon Musk buying X, I'm hoping with Trump winning the White House, I'm hoping with all the Trump appointees being good Florida, America First MAGA guys being in positions of power, that we can reset the establishment and make it ours. Laura Trump is there. Maybe she'll go to the Senate. I don't know if she does. Hopefully they replace her with somebody good. But we can't just let them have their establishment back. What we did to deliver the White House for Donald Trump in 2024, we have to do again in 2026 and put MAGA, America First Republicans in the Senate, in the House. We just have to keep winning and winning, winning. And it's going to take fight, but it's also going to take awareness. And these GOPs, and look, the state party does a good job. And I know I saw at the opening, they need to do a better job picking candidates. But the state party did do a significant job taking what was a narrow. I mean, when DeSantis was first elected in 2018? I think 2018. I don't know. When DeSantis was first elected, Andrew Gillum was a bag full of ballots in Broward County away from being our meth-addicted governor. And we won that one, but we had a razor-thin Republican majority. Now we have a million Republican majority in the state of Florida. The state GOP gets credit for that. Ron DeSantis gets credit for that. Now let's take that majority and do something special with it. Let's get better Republicans in the House of Representatives, in the U.S. House of Representatives, better Republicans in the Senate. And we already kind of do. Trump took all of these guys from Florida for a reason. We just have to do better locally and at the state level.
You know, I was really disappointed recently because I saw that, for example, like open carry came up, I think. The conversation was coming up, right? And Ben Albritton said immediately, I have no interest. It's not like he said, listen, we're going to talk to our communities. We're going to reach out to Floridians and find out what they really want. We're really going to have an open dialogue about. He just said, I'm not interested. That was decided way before. Pasadomo is in his leadership circle, and he just killed it right then. So my problem is, like, these guys aren't listening. They're not listening, and at the end of the day, you can chalk it up to one thing: they don't care. They don't care what, like, people, like these MAGA people in the grassroots think, or what they believe, or what they want out of this red wave that they deliver, right? Because it wasn't the GOP. It's not like, I'm not going to say anything bad about Evan Power or the leaders up there, the individual people, but the bottom line is that we didn't do this. We didn't work this hard for Trump to win so that we couldn't reap any of the benefits, right? We want a conservative government. We want conservative actions. And they're saying, you know what? No, we need the temper, because your children, you don't understand what you want. We're going to try to control the outcome here, and we're going to water it down. You can't handle that much winning. And it's grotesque to me, aside from the picking terrible candidates. And I'm always going to say it. I think every show I'm going to mention the name Erica Booth, probably the most, because I served with her. I saw her votes. I've never seen somebody vote so to the left and then try to pretend that she's Trump's niece, when she's running for an election. And I was like, man, you're deceiving these people. I'm not going to let you lie to them in front of me. I'm going to tell them the truth about you. But they spend, millions of dollars for her to win. And then they let all these, really, people like Kristen Arrington assume the Senate seat here. Just terrible.
Well, John, you said, it's that they don't care about the MAGA values, or, constitutional carry is a perfect example. Politicians are good at getting elected, right? That's their job. Their job is to convince people to elect them to office. And they will do whatever the people who show up to vote for them want them to do. And the problem that we have, and you've seen this not just locally, not in the state level, but nationally as well, you have, what people call rhinos like Dan Crenshaw. I'm always clear when I say rhinos, because people call people like Dan Crenshaw a rhino, suggesting he's not a Republican. He's exactly a Republican. That's what the Republican Party used to be. The Mitt Romneys and the Dan Crenshaws and the John McCains. We're the GNP. So it's not that they're rhinos. They are Republicans. They're just not the right Republicans, not the Republicans we need to be. But that being said, when you're challenged in a primary like Crenshaw was, when you're challenged in a primary like David Smith, for example, here locally, and then you win, the people that were really upset about the positions maybe you did or didn't take, and I'm not suggesting that this is the right thing to do, but if you're a politician, you just got reelected through a primary challenge, and the people that were primarying you didn't agree with what you were doing, and then they lost. Well, the suggestion then is the people who like what you're doing outnumber the people who don't. don't. And that's how you govern. You govern based on what gets you reelected. And obviously, when 60% of a county vote for you after your policies, whether or not the grassroots people hate it, well, that's what happens. So what needs to, and so politicians, I think, incorrectly assume that means those policies are not popular because the people who primary them didn't win based on the policies that they opposed or maybe didn't promote. I think it's more work.
Wish.
I think it's the grassroots
I think
people.
That you're right.
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think that you're right. I think that you're right. I hate to give them the benefit of the doubt, because I think that they have the numbers, but they have the numbers because they have the lobbyists and they have the money, right? And if they brought them down, they put every Republican in a huge room, every Republican in Osceola County in a huge room, and you allowed two people to speak to that crowd, and here's the MAGA person, and then here's the rhino, then I think that the people are going to not vote for that rhino. The problem is that what they will do is they're going to go to their people like, Anthony Pedicini. He's going to walk in with his rainbow pride flag and he's going to say, oh, this guy here, he's a pedophile. He's a thief. He's a this, he's a that, he's a whatever. And they're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars sullying this guy's name. And then, the other guy wins and he's like, hey, look, the people like me. What am I going to say? The people like me.
But it's money, John.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The lobbyists have money. And what do they do with the money? Attack ads, mailers, canvassers, phone banking, surveying, polling, taking the polling, and then doing ads based on that polling. But Kamala Harris spent $1 billion, even though she still owes $30 million. She spent $1 billion and still lost. Money doesn't necessarily drive outcomes unless you have people who sit on their hands, they go to meetings, bitch and complain, and at the end of the day, they don't do anything. If you want to replace the people who are elected, you have to go and knock on doors your damn self. You have to go and send letters to your neighbors. You have to call people and organize, but nobody does that. They complain, they go to meetings, they get a drink or two, they talk about how awful everything is, and then when the incumbent walks in and spends $1 million on mailers, everybody goes, oh, you can't beat these. You can. You just have to outwork them. Or you have to at least get close enough that they start taking you seriously. And we fail. That's where we fail. And it's not that they're failing us. We're failing our communities by not putting support behind the people we want to win instead. Elections are work. Grassroots elections are work, and nobody wants to work. They want to go home, close their garage door behind them, and then yell at the TV when they don't get the results they want. That's not good enough anymore. We saw what happens when grassroots get organized with Trump, right? Yeah. How many people showed up to libraries and polling stations with flags and signs that they made themselves? Yeah. That's grassroots. If you want to beat local GOP establishment candidates, you got to find people that care enough to write their own signs and stand at polling stations without doing a sign-up sheet with a local club and get volunteer hours. It has to be organic, but nobody inspires people. So we have to have better candidates that inspire people to show up. It can't just be, I don't agree with this guy, vote for me instead because I'll give you your right to carry a gun without a permit. That's not enough. You have to inspire people. If you inspire people, they will follow you. And if they follow you, you'll win. Look at AOC. She unseated a guy who was supposed to stay in Washington forever, and she won. And now they want that idiot to be president in 2028. We need better candidates, and we need more inspiring candidates. That's really the secret, and the people need to work.
Yeah, that's great advice. What do you think? Really, I know that we're on borrowed time now, so we're in the red here. But let me. What do you think quickly about this whole war between the FRA and the GOP and kicking all these people out of the RECs just before the elections here on the 3rd?
Man, we can't get our own way. I mean, and that's the thing. The problem is power, right? At the point of at the basis of all of this politics is power. If we're trying to just hold on to the power, we're always going to lose. And if we're trying to save America, and if we truly think that the left is dangerous and they're communists and they hate us, they hate our state, they hate our policies, they hate our children, they hate our families, they hate our friends, which they do. If we're true in our beliefs, then we have to find a way to work together to beat them. The problem is too many people want that influence. Too many people want the invites to the fundraisers and the political events. Too many people want their ego stroked when they walk into a room. And so as a result, they're not willing to give up the power, even if that means winning or losing. And we got to do better there. We need, honestly, I think the secret to this is having our electeds come in, get all the people together, one table, nice restaurant and say, hey, look, we're going to work together, and when we win, everybody's going to share credit, and then we're going to get money, and all these organizations can grow, and everybody gets to be as powerful as they want to be. But I think that's how we solve these wars. You're right. The infighting hurts us. The grassroots organizations that are unaffiliated tend to do better because there's less infighting. We got to stop the infighting. We got to work together. But people got to let go of the egos. And in politics, unfortunately, I think that's your strongest motivating factor, you know?
Yeah.
Man, you're so right.
You know, when you said power, David, I thought you were talking about Evan Power.
No. I'm talking about, you know, look, I'll be tangential for a moment because I'm always tangential, and I like being tangential. When I got involved in politics, I was really surprised with the makeup of a room. And you know, I went to a fundraiser, and I'm looking around. I tell a story all the time. I look around the room, and there's wealthy people everywhere. And I'm seeing, I'm like, okay, well, this is where the money is. And then I see the candidate, and then I see the rich people. And then there was two types of rich people. There was the rich people that were rich because they were there, and then there was the people that wanted the influence, you know, that comes with it. And the access to that, the access to the clubs, and it really drives people in the worst kind of way. And that's the establishment. That is not the MAGA Trump people. They could care less. I've been to rallies with Trump people. I've been to special events with Trump people. These dudes wear boots and suits and hats, and they don't care. They're not there to be impressive. They're there because they believe in saving America, and they want to be around people that think like them. And you leave that place chugging beers and high-fiving. That is what MAGA is, that people don't understand. Then I've been to stuffy GOP events, and I want to leave. It's just... We have to do better. We have to find out. And Democrats do the opposite. Go to their cult meetings. Those people think that literally when they walk out of that meeting, they're going to war. They're programmed. They're ready to hate the world. They're ready to protest and show up to school board meetings with 17 masks. They're passionate.
Yeah.
That's what the Democrats do in their organizations. And in the Republican organizations, it's like an HOA meeting, except for the Trump components of it.
It's true.
So... we really have to do better. We really have to do better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice, and I'm really looking forward to it. Doesn't matter because we need to have a party that has some level of integrity and that's at the local level, at the REC level. If we just allow these parties to run wild, they're always going to keep power. Nobody's going to just decide, oh, okay, well, here, I'm tired of the power here. You go ahead and do it, even though there's no real power involved. You know, it's just honorariums. So I really pray that these next elections in December, they turn out good, that people understand that there's a mission at stake and that they do the right thing. But David, listen, I can't thank you enough for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it. I follow you religiously on Twitter. I read your posts
on X.
On
X.
On X. On X. I would change X for posts. But listen, I really appreciate you coming on and blessing us with your wisdom. You've done great things here. You are literally in Central Florida at the vanguard of our movement. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I hope you'll join us again soon.
Always. And thank you. I mean, you put yourself out there. We got to meet during your race, and I saw how hard you were working. And that's what it takes. It takes people to actually work like you did and putting yourself out there. And it's not easy. I've been a candidate as well. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And it's a lot of emotion. But you got to do it. And so I thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything you do, and great show. And I really do appreciate Tom. John, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You, David, when's your show? Tell us. Your show's on Monday nights.
Yeah, the plug. Yes, my show is Monday nights live at 8 p.m. We stream on every platform, Rumble, YouTube. Biggest audiences are on X. And we're also now powered by We The Studios. It's a new streaming platform to compete against Netflix. It's non-woke entertainment for normal people, and we're streaming there as well. So if you go to wethestudios.com and you want to see my show and a lot of other great content, my stuff is free. I'm like the free drugs you give the people, and then when you're hooked, you buy more. So that's how good I am. So go to We The Studios, and if you want to subscribe, use promo code Pollack, save yourself some money. But that's where we're at. Come find me on X. Come hang out in the live chat with us, and we have a lot of fun. And that's Monday nights at 8 p.m.
Absolutely, we'll do that. And We The Studios is based. Isn't it based here in Florida? Actually, in Central Florida. Yeah,
based in Central Florida. They lived in California for a while. They did the Hollywood thing, and you said, you know what, DEI isn't going to dictate the way we entertain people. And they packed up, moved, and they started a new studio, and soon it'll be bigger than Netflix. The programming there is wholesome. You can watch it with your family. There's no BS woke messaging. It's just good, normal entertainment, and we're thrilled to be on that platform.
Yeah, and by decent people, too. Run by decent
Great people, yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations for that, David. We'll make sure that we watch the show and participate and support you. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon. Until then, so check out David's show tomorrow, the David Pollack Show, tomorrow at 8 p.m. on X or any of the other platforms. Thanks again, David.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
All right, John, that was great that David was on the show. Some great insight from David.
Yeah, David's show is really good. He knows when to be, like me, I'm always like 100%. I'm always the hammer, right? It's always the honey badger. David has a very good give and take and so on, a very wise. He's a very smart guy, an attorney. He's really good. Watch his show. The show is really good. Now we're going to have some local people. So that kind of gives you the perspective, that this stuff is happening throughout the state. It's not just here. There's problems in federal. And if you follow him on X, they're having a long conversation about exactly this thing, what we're experiencing here in Osceola County.
Right.
For us, we wanted to do an Osceola County specific one because it's the one that we're observing so closely, and so what we've done is we have more guests for you. We have our great friend, Jim Trautz, a former candidate for supervisor of elections, and Angelica McKinney, our great friend, another conservative leader here. And they're going to talk to us about what happened, what we should do, and just whatever their insight is to deal with it.
And going forward,
going
with our
forward.
elections, as far as our local Osceola County issues that we have going on here. But before we cut to them, John, we have another quick video from our cronyism and nepotism chapter of the Osceola County Commission.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome Commissioner Brandon Arrington, who will be sworn in for the 5th time by his wife, State Senator Kristen Arrington, with his mother, Supervisor of Elections, Mary Jane Arrington, holding the Bible.
In 2008, when I was 33 years old, that I would be here 16 years later talking to you once again. But it has been an honor and a privilege to work in our community. But more importantly, it's been an honor and privilege to work with this board and our team here at Osceola County. We have amazing staff that we work with on a daily basis that actually get the things done. We come up with the ideas, but you all have to do the hard work to implement them and make them happen. And that's what's so important to me. And I really do feel like we have an amazing 4 years ahead of us. We have laid the groundwork in this community for true success for everyone in Osceola County to be able to experience. So I would be remiss if I don't thank my parents for setting an example and laying out a track, and my wife for actually keeping me on it. Without her, I would not be here today, and I thank you so much, baby. Thank you.
All right, John, we're back.
Did you hear the people? Did you hear the people choke when he said keeping me honest? I'm not sure that she's doing a very good job at that. I mean, how is she going to keep him honest? I don't think anybody in that family has been honest for generations.
No.
This guy, the guy that you saw, I think that's his dad. His dad receives more than $1 million, about $1.5 million or more from the county commission. Essentially, they're directing to him. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure he's very grateful. It's been, now they're going to go into 20 years of a Brandon Arrington regime. The guy has ruined the county. His district is the worst district in the entire county. He tried to we had one piece of property set apart for a huge park. The family made it a part of their contract with the county when they sold the land that it would be for a park. He tried to put a factory on it. Yeah. And it was the community that fought back against it. He's an absolute disaster. I don't think that people really understand what a bunch of jerks these people on the county commission are. Cheryl Grebe got the county or the city, I don't remember who it was, to buy her house for practically twice of what it was worth.
Yeah.
This is just, these people are beyond corrupt. And these are the leaders that we have in this county. And then his mom, who's the supervisor of elections here, the three people, she overseeing the three elections at the same time.
The Osceola County aristocracy. And it was on
these
full
are not
display,
people that
John,
should be
at
celebrated.
this swearing in. John and Jim, welcome to the show. Jim Trautz and Angelica McKinney. You know, it was on full display. We had both families complete that run Osceola County in one room, patting each other on the back, all happy, all smiles, congratulating themselves that the Arrington family will now be running Osceola County for 20 years.
It's absolutely sickening. These people should not be celebrated. Those ballots need to be fingerprinted instead. Well, listen, as the second part of our show here, we brought our good friends here, Angelica McKinney and Jim Trautz, to the show. Welcome, guys. We appreciate you guys coming on, taking the time on a Sunday evening to join us. What are your guys' thoughts on the last elections? Let's start there.
Yeah, Jim, what's your thoughts on the last election, Jim?
Well, listen, I listened to what David had to say earlier on, and I've got to tell you, I think that he hit a lot of spots that were spot on. It was a tough election. We knew it was an uphill battle. I think that the candidates that ran did as well as could be expected. Frankly, maybe even a little bit better than what was expected. But we fell short. Yeah. And we fell short for a number of different reasons. Some people will say it's because it was bad candidates, but they can't all be bad. Some people would say it's because we didn't raise enough money. Well, I mean, you could look and say that David even pointed that out, that money doesn't buy elections. It takes a concerted effort of an army of people with good candidates. And I think we fell short in some of those areas.
I would just say this, Jim. It's not even, every candidate is going to be a bad candidate, especially when you're starting out and you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You could have all the instruction in the world, on your own and trying to figure things out. But if you don't have people that are experienced helping you along the way, you're in for a very tough time. And I know for myself, when I ran in 2022, I was on my own. I thought I had the help, and then I didn't. And then all of a sudden I was on my own, and I had to learn very quickly. Thankfully, I was able to do a lot of the technical stuff myself. But as far as everything else that goes along with it, I hadn't a clue. Thankfully, I did have Jon to help me, with some of that stuff. But, yeah, man, I mean, if you don't have the people in place to help you with your campaign and help you to succeed, you're going to have a tough time, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when I say bad candidates, that's the Monday morning quarterbacks, okay?
Yeah.
That's the people that are now making excuses for why things didn't happen. Frankly, I looked at what was going on, and I thought we ran a heck of a campaign, especially given the overwhelming odds it takes to go ahead and beat a dynasty family, if you will. So that's the Monday morning quarterback, and that's the excuses after the fact. And you're right. It takes an army. Now, to be clear, I mean, there were some individuals that, poured their heart and soul into this. I mean, we had people out there early on gathering petitions, and showing up at events and, sweating at different things while they're eating the biggest Cuban sandwich on the earth, and all these different things, But the reality is that...
Well, that was a world record.
Yeah, world's record, 330 feet. That's right. But I mean, the reality is, going into it, you have to have an army of people that are ready, willing, and able to work. Not just individuals, but a concerted army, a precinct strategy, for lack of better words, to be able to be successful. And frankly, we've got elections coming up in 2 years. We should have already started that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well,
100%.
It's hard to start that, right? Because we have now elections going on in just a couple of days. In 2 days, we have elections here at the REC, and the number one thing that they've done, the only effective thing that the Republican Party locally has done in the last 2 years is to remove its own members who don't support the people that the GOP want. From the elections, that's the chief consideration. It's just a complete and total disgrace. When we have the Democrats, who we talk and complain about their elections so often, and we know that they have fake elections. We know that they can't be trusted with any elections. We know that Mary Jane can't be trusted with an election. She violated state statute 2 election cycles in a row. But now we have the GOP, the local GOP, and other GOPs throughout the state that are fixing the elections. How can we complain about Mary Jane Arrington when we have our own chairman kicking people out of the party? And then when you ask for the bylaws, he says, "Oh, I don't need the bylaws because I have them memorized." I mean, what are you talking about? This is, I mean, if this were a government, for sure, it would be criminal. But because it's a private entity, they can get away with it. But it removes any kind of credibility from the Republican Party locally for them to try to control elections. What's wrong with just allowing elections to happen? It's a crime. Angelica, tell me, number one, your reaction to the last elections, and tell me what you expect to see here in a couple of days at these at local REC elections.
Hey guys, thank you for having me tonight. Well, obviously, no, the results that we wanted to. I feel that we actually went backwards. We moved 4 seats to the left compared to the 2022 year.
And you sent some maps too, right, Angelica? Do you want me to put those up?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so this map is from 2020 that Angelica drew up, and you can talk to this map, Angelica.
Correct. So those are all pretty much like all the local seats. There is no governor or presidential races, but mainly for Osceola County. And you can see back in 2020, we had about 5, 6, 7, 8 seats that were held by Republicans. Now, I'm not talking about whether it's a light Republican, a medium Republican, just in theory, held by Republicans. That's from 2020. And then if we go to the 2022, that's where we can actually see that our county was kind of like moving a little to the right. We actually picked a few more seats in the city of Kissimmee. And then you see for the House of Representatives, that's where we actually got three seats at the time. That was 2020. We had 2 red seats on the school board, and also for the city of St. Cloud. Now, if we go to 2024, you can see that those just changed completely. City of Kissimmee is completely blue. The city of St. Cloud's gonna stay the same. We lost 1 on the school board. County commissioner stayed the same. All the other seats for sheriff and those stay the same. But then on the House, then we are 2 and 2. No gains on Senate, no gains on Congress. So right now we are just like 4 seats to the left. So we did really, especially with everything that has been happening in the country, knowing that a lot of people were going to be voting Trump. Particularly, I was at one of the early polling locations, and every single person that stopped by will tell me, I voted for Trump, whether it was Hispanic, non-Hispanic, all the countries. If it was about Spanish speaking, all the countries, they stop by and they will tell us we voted for Trump. And and the majority of them will say we voted all the way down Republican. So those results, when we saw them, was kind of like surprising because it didn't really pull anyone else other than the president and the governor. So what went wrong? That's perhaps one of the reasons that we wanted to push so much for Jim to win, because who counts the votes matters. And until we have an audit, until we can see what is really happening at the SOE, it's going to be very difficult for us to have some fair elections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5. Okay, so I'm getting complaints about my sound, right? My sound. Thank you, everybody, for watching. By the way, please like and share the show. I'm going to take a moment to say that. I could not agree more. I think that you're right, Angelica. We have to control the elections. I think that was one of the reasons why we were pushing so hard for Jim to win. And this points to a strategic failure, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. But certainly a strategic failure what the GOP did to Jim, because Jim, you were the race there was no internal strife over, right? With me, okay, the rhinos don't like me, the establishment doesn't like me. So people who adhered to the rhinos and the establishment, they couldn't support me. But for Jim, that was not an issue. He was the only Republican running. There was no primary. It was somebody that everybody understood that his integrity was at a very high level, and he should be in that seat today. But what the GOP did was recruit people to run for other seats. It funded those people to run for those seats, and then it siphoned off your volunteers, Jim, to go work on those campaigns, which forced you to spend your money paying the $10,000 fee.
Yeah.
And then the party refused to give you the same amount of money that it gave those other candidates. So nobody will ever convince me that was not an intentional tripping up of your campaign. I don't understand it. $4,000 to those other 2 candidates apiece, $0 to you. I mean, what do you think, Jim? I mean, what?
So I didn't hear all of that, but let me just share a couple of things. I think all this goes back to having an army of people, having a precinct strategy. The reality is that when you don't have something like that in place, nobody wins. And what I mean by that, and I think that you touched on this, Jon, is, early on, for example, when we were trying to get petitions, we were getting 150, 200 a week. And if you do that on a steady basis, you really have no problem doing anything like that. But then when the people that you're using, your assets, if you will, end up becoming candidates, or they get pulled to some other area for the lack of a precinct strategy, then 2 things really happen. 1, you start stepping on each other's toes, and 2, you lose the assets that you have yourself. Now, make no mistake about it. Candidates have to have their own teams in place. We had a team in place to fundraise, to gather petitions, to do all those different things. But when you have a precinct strategy, especially at the local level, where you're reaching every single precinct, every single neighborhood, every block in every neighborhood, for things such as gathering petitions, for things like fundraising, for things like events, for things like get out the vote, for canvassing, for all those different things, life suddenly becomes a whole lot easier, and seats become a whole lot easier to win.
Yeah. And if I can add to what Jim is saying to follow up. If you think about it, that makes sense what he's saying on respect to the precinct strategy, because you have the right people, they're going to help out with those petitions. And why is it that almost maybe only one candidate is the one that was able to get their petitions through? And that candidate started like super early gathering those petitions, right? But I understand the party gets a portion of that money. So what I feel is like the party is using these as their fundraising. Think about it. Why will they even need to get their members ready and learning how to go gather petitions for the candidates, right? When they know if they don't do that, and if the candidate can't get those petitions, they'll have to come up with the money, and some of that money is going to go to the party. So in a way, it's like an indirect fundraising, and that shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, and I wanted to say something real quick. Just like you said, John, Jim's seat wasn't really a contested seat. Everyone, I think, knew how important it was, that seat, and that we won that seat, except for the local Republican Party. We saw, like you said,
Yeah.
funding go to candidates that, quite frankly, and I'll say it, I don't think had a very strong chance of winning. We paid them $4,000 apiece, and they were great people. Don't get me wrong. I like them both. They are excellent people. But Jim's race, and I don't think this would be questioned, was the most important race locally here in Osceola County. And we saw his help being siphoned off to other campaigns, things being told to him, promises made that were not kept, just not a lot of help. And it bothered me. I couldn't understand why. Jim had a great race. He had great people, but I don't think he saw the help that he or anybody else expected him to get from the Republican Party.
So, can I clarify something real quick?
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that people know that there's a difference between having individuals help and having a group of people as an army, if you will. I mean, we had great help. I mean, I remember a couple of people, in particular in the leadership of the local party, who worked their butts off for us, gathering petitions, going into an American Legion and having a beer with a bunch of bikers to get petitions, turning in petitions, organizing, helping organizing events and those type of things. But those were individual efforts. And I can tell you from experience, from having been in a county before that was deep blue, that we turned to red, the key to doing all that is not having individuals work like dogs, but having an army of people in place, a precinct strategy, having organizational awareness as to who reports to who and who's doing what, communicating what needs to be done, and making sure that you do what you have to do as a group moving forward all in the same direction, as opposed to just individuals working their butts off. There's a big difference. If you can get that army of people working in the same direction, I can guarantee you success. Now, some people would look at success and say, well, it's doing better than last time. Well, that's not a strategy for winning. That's a strategy for keeping your job as chairman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we didn't do better than last time,
we didn't.
number one. And we did, we didn't. But here's the other thing, Jim. You said that there's one way to make sure that you do better, and that's by everybody working together. There's also a really good way to make sure you fail, and that's by splitting everybody apart. And the party has done nothing but split people apart, right? They've turned people who are supporters of different people within the party, they've turned them out of the party. The party has not grown at all. It's shrunk. But why is it shrinking? They're casting people away. I remember at the last elections, there were 40 new people who wanted to become Republican Party executive committee members that night. They wanted to become members. They wanted to be involved. And the party sent them away, right? Then the party came. Now in this election, what are we doing? The most fervent Republicans, the most fervent conservatives, to be straight up, the people with the most amount of integrity at the party, not everyone, I'm just saying, it's not saying that there's no one with integrity who's not involved, but people who have clear integrity, who want our party to be the party of Judeo-Christian values, of the Constitution and so on, those who are committed to doing that by action are being thrown out of the party now. And it's not just the state party. This is the local party, and this is now the second time, because you can't be involved in a fake election, in a rigged election on a local level, and then campaign on the fact that our elections are no good. You can't do that. So To me, when they decided that they were going to take the party and these were the steps that they were going to maneuver so that they can keep control of the local party, they had to abandon you, Jim, which is what they did. I mean, they may have been supporting you in terms of a vote, but no longer could they support you as the actual party, because how can you do both? How can you rig an election and then put a supervisor for elections up on the basis of integrity, which you are running? I mean, those are two completely opposite things. Another thing regarding the funding, Angelica, is that they take half of this money from the candidates, right? So my fee was $1,800. Let's say they get $900, right? The party gets $900 from that. Now, they didn't spend those $900. In Jim's case, it's a huge amount. It's $10,000. They didn't spend $5,000 for Jim's race, which is what they should have done. If a candidate is spending the money, paying the fee, then they should take that money that candidate is putting into the party, and they should use that money for the benefit of his race, right? You can do that. That's perfectly legal. There's no obstacle to it. But this party, what did they do instead? You know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense what they did with the money, how that money disappeared. In 2016, the party, in 2020, I think, the party raised $30-something thousand from a Trump store. None of that money was spent to help candidates win races. Wow. And this time they put out a little newspaper. They put out a little, thing, but the newspaper got to doors on the day prior to election, I think.
It was the day before. It was the Monday before Election Day.
When the whole county
tactical disaster.
had pretty much voted. The whole county had pretty much voted by election day. So it's like, what for right now? But unfortunately, what we have seen is what I see is the party doesn't have interest in growing. They only have interest in keeping just the people that is going to give them the votes to keep that power and control, instead of just trying to do the right thing for the county and for everyone.
Yeah. I think that the war now, so here's the thing. People like me, I'm sure that I'm going to get there on December 3rd, and they're going to tell me I can't vote. Even though I filled out all my paperwork, I did everything I said I was going to do, because the state party submitted to everyone. They gave everybody 7 days to answer to these grievances that nobody saw. They didn't send anybody any grievances, right? And my reply was simply, what proof do you have of these grievances? Right? Do you have any proof of the grievances? Please send me the evidence. I never got anything back from them. I never got an email. I never got a phone call. I never got a letter. I never got anything else to show any proof of what they were accusing me of, the allegations, which is being a member of the FRA. So for something other, just by being a member of an organization that supported Trump in the primary election, you're getting thrown out. But they are failing to prove that you're a member, but they're still kicking you out. This is, it's the most un-American, undemocratic process. You'd think that we were the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
you think
that's
that I was
the
Hillary
problem, John, and this is what we've been talking about, is this war with the FRA, and we talked about this on the last show. Just for those that are watching that don't know what we're talking about here, FRA members, and it looks like we're being targeted from the local precinct committeemen and committeewoman lists are getting emails and snail mail, telling that there has been a grievance filed against them because they are members of the FRA, and that they will lose their...
But they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know. But
and they don't know who they accuse.
Because they're sending these to people that are not members of the FRA.
They're sending them randomly according to the list, right? They're sending it to the people that they may speculate. And this list, I know, is being sent by the local party to Tallahassee. So the Tallahassee I'm speculating. The state party sent a request to the local party that says, give me a list of all the people you want out of the party. The local party sent the state all the people that they suspect may be members of the FRA under that excuse to get rid of them. And most people are going to be like, what? This looks like this looks like a legal document. There's no legal it's not a legal document. It's nothing. All it is a letter looking like it's lit, and it's written by a lawyer. But there's no legal reference to that letter whatsoever. There's no legal weight to it. It's just a letter. It might as well have been written on a Post-it note and sent to you that way. Okay, yeah. So no one should be afraid. And they haven't proven who's a member and who's not a member. I guarantee you, for example, if the chairman, what are they going to do? And I'm curious about this. But what are they going to do for the state representative who's a member of the FRA? Can they kick them out because they're automatically members of the RECs? So how fair is this going to be done? If they want you out, they get you out. That's all there is to it. And then this is about maintaining control. So Angelica said earlier, they don't want to grow their party. They don't want to grow it. You're right. They want to shrink it, in fact. They want to shrink it down to a number of people that will get together and say, what do we do today, Tallahassee? And then Tallahassee is going to say, you're going to go elect like someone like, you're going to go support someone like Erica Booth. And then they're going to put their $2 million, say Erica Booth is a favorite of the party. There are 6 members of the party. All those members are the leadership on the executive board, and those people support Erica Booth, and they endorse her. And that's the problem that we have. There's no integrity in it. There's no one who's putting their country or community above their position in the party that I see. And here's what I would expect. Okay, so sometimes with my kids, right? I have a whole bunch of kids. With my kids, I'll expect, when you ask your kid, what is wrong with you, right? I never say it out loud, but I'm thinking it. How many times did I drop you exactly? But sometimes you got to be like, why did you do that? I'm curious. Why would you make that decision? I ask my kids that all the time. Like, why would you make that? What caused you? What led you to make that decision? And when my kids don't know, we'll have a long conversation about it. Well, here's the long conversation that needs to be had. And at the end of those conversations, if my kids don't come up with their own conclusion, then I'm going to say, here's what, as your dad, as someone who loves you, here's what my answer would have been. It would have been A, B, and C. So here's that A, B, and C for the members of the party who are not getting kicked out. Okay? Because if you haven't come to your own conclusion by December 3rd, when we have these local elections, to come up with your own conclusion, that's the time for you to come up to your own conclusion to say, this is the right thing to do. Here's the right thing to do. Everyone should step up at that party when they ask for elections, and they should demand that the party have free and fair elections without throwing anybody out of the party. They should allow people to speak, and they should allow for people to have a conversation, a dialogue about the strategic direction of our party. Are we going to be crooks like the Democrats, or are we going to be God-fearing, Judeo-Christian principled, biblical voting, people who believe in the Constitution and who act like it when we vote for our leadership of our local Republican Party? That's what we need to do. That is the right answer. If you don't know what A, B, and C is for you, I just gave it to you right then and there. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm not telling you what you have to say. I'm just telling you there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And if you have another bad election, then you are all, if you take part in it, if you subscribe in it, if you allow it to happen without saying anything, then silence is complicit, just like it was last time we had these elections and they stole that election too. They rigged that election. Don't do it. Don't participate in it. Fight against it. Do the right thing, because people are watching. And if you can't do it now, then you don't deserve to have the position. You don't deserve to have a leadership role in the party. You don't deserve to lead anyone in this community. And you're not worthy of the honor. Is the bottom line.
I would say
That's
this.
correct.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angelica.
Yeah, what I wanted to add is that yes, I agree with what you're saying, John. And what I want to say is I want to encourage everyone to show up. Because right now nobody knows what's going to happen.
If you're a member or not, show up. You're right, Angelica.
We should know what's going to happen, but we don't know. They have received all different kinds of answers to those emails. And this is just a second attempt of just purging the voter rolls. We don't know what they're going to do in 2 years from now. I mean, 2 years ago, they kicked over 40 members were kicked out. This year is because, you're an FRA member. Well, what's going to happen in 2 years? They can just create a bunch of grievances that nobody even knows, just for them to control the vote. But I will say is everybody needs to show up. That's the only way they're going to find out what their status is that night and what they are going to do. So I think it's wrong. And I do hope that people vote for the right person, and that can change our county in the proper direction. And if it doesn't happen, unfortunately, we're gonna hear the same thing. Is, oh, we gotta work together. We gotta work together. Yeah, you want us to work together, but you don't want us to give us a voice on working together. It's not about just having boots on the ground and not having a seat at the table. But I do encourage everyone to show up, and then we'll see what happens. We'll go. We're gonna go. We're gonna be ready. Just I was gonna say, don't fight.
I don't think there has to be a lot of conflict.
I was going to say that there's an encouraging sign coming out there, is that we received an email from the vice chair of the executive committee, Joanne Colonna, endorsing a certain somebody, and it's going against what I hear that the actual chair of the REC wants. And that's a good sign. And I wanted to say this too, not everybody within that executive committee is not doing anything. All right. Joanne and the Women's Crusaders are very hardworking. I see them hardworking all the time. I see them out there all the time. They are the bright spot of the executive committee and the only ones that I ever see doing anything as it pertains to, voter registrations, out in the public, meeting the public, doing events. They are the bright spot. But, when you go above that level, to the very chair, and I like Mark, don't get me wrong, I like Mark Cross, he's a nice guy, but if you look at the results that we've gotten over the last 3 election cycles, and you can even go back further than that, it's time for a change. I know that he's not running again, because now he's state committeeman, but it is definitely time for a change. We need fire and passion and a true leader in that REC that's going to really turn Osceola County red. Not this fake red that the media is telling us, oh, Osceola County turned red this election cycle. No, it did not. Just because Trump and Rick Scott got elected in Osceola County, that doesn't mean the county turned red. You look at the local seats, like Angelica said, we lost seats here locally. So, no, we didn't turn red. We got more blue. And it's time that we truly turn red. And that's going to be from the right person running the REC here in Osceola County.
And just so you guys know, I know of Oak Creek because of Joanne Colonna.
Absolutely.
And not because I went to Oak Creek first. The Crusaders used to be the Republican Women Federated. And that's where I met her. And after that, that's when I started going to Oak Creek. Unfortunately, they dissolved the organization. I guess they were offered to just work together with Oak Creek. and then they closed it. But I wish they had never walked away from the Women's Federated. I mean, I can tell you this. Their group probably could have been bigger and with less drama, because I know, her as being VP, she has to sometimes probably perhaps be quiet on things that she might not want to, that she will want to do differently. But she and
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, Angelica, and here's the problem. We're allowing people to stay silent and say, you know what, I can't because I got to do what I'm told to do. Okay, then get out of the way. Resign and get out of the way. Okay, so here's the thing. I like Joanne Colonna. I think that she is a true believer. She's a conservative. She's certainly a nice lady. Bob, great man. These are great people. But are you a great Republican or a great American? At some point, you have to make that choice, because they created the situation where you have to make that choice. The party created that choice for them. It wasn't me. It wasn't John Arguello. And I think that she was really upset with me because we've parted ways. We've come back. We've parted ways. We've come back. But the thing is, she had, like someone like Joanne and any other member of the leadership, they got to understand, for me, it's not about me. I don't care if you support me or you support my campaign. If you're rigging the elections for the local GOP, or you're allowing it to happen, or you're supporting it, then I'm not going to stay silent about that. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, as long as you're good to my campaign, then I'm going to do it because I want to win my campaign more than that's important to me. The whole reason I ran, the whole reason I'm involved is for that. Here's the thing. This is being involved in politics has come at a very deep cost for me personally, financially, emotionally, mentally, in every respect, right? Reputationally, especially. Look at, they spend $300,000 in ads trying to destroy me. I'm not in it to win an election for me. I'm in it because I love my country. I'm in it because I believe that our country should follow biblical principles. I believe that our country should be led by good people. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. So I don't care if you write me a check for $100 for my campaign, but then you turn around and you participate in rigging an election at the local party. Then I don't want your check. Take your check, take all your money, take your crap and get out of here, right? And if you just don't want to fight, then that's fine. Step down and get out of the way. She's running for first vice chair. She's saying she wants the responsibility to do that. So she has brought people to the party. She's done a great job with the Crusaders, right? And that's a huge group of great ladies who are very impactful on elections. The problem is she's a leader of that group. She's the first vice president of the GOP. So she has a responsibility to the American people and to the Republicans that show up there to do the right thing. And if you can't, don't run. If you can't open your mouth when it matters, don't get involved. Because that's what leadership is. I can never imagine being on a battlefield.
Perhaps this time around, she's seen that. She's seen what has happened with everyone. And it looks like she is turning it around. She is endorsing
Jim.
Yeah. What we believe is the right person to take on the job.
Jim, I'm gonna give it to you 1 second. I just want to say,
about
Jim,
every 16th word that Jon is saying, so it's kind of hard, but I think I'm getting the gist of it. That's okay. I think let's look at it this way. I think what we have to focus on is not so much the individuals, but what's happening generically. I know for a fact that there's a battle going on for the heart of this county, and that battle is being waged at the senior levels of the executive committee. And there are individuals inside that executive committee that don't agree with some of the decisions that have been made and some of the proclamations that have been made. And I've got to tell you something. It should scare everybody to death when you have a state committee person stand up and say, well, I've decided with the chairman that, he's going to run for state committee man, and I'm going to run for the OCREC chairman, and I'm going to take it over. I mean, that was actually said in a meeting. Whatever happened to people being involved? Whatever happened to votes being involved? I work as hard as anybody else does. As hard as Angelica or Joanne or whoever else's name you want to put inside there. It's up to us to decide, what's going to happen inside that committee and what the direction is moving forward. We ought to be the ones to sit down and say, okay, well, who is it that's able to organize the party effectively, to communicate within the party, to raise funds, to motivate people, to grow the party, to reach people? Who is it that's able to sit down and analyze results and identify the strengths and weaknesses of campaigns? And, who's able to make decisive decisions, and who's able to instill the need for change in order to win? Who is it that understands and is able to implement a precinct strategy to win, and organizational awareness of who reports to who and how the pieces work together, and communicate with people and do voter registration and just do the myriad of things that need to be done, as opposed to standing up and saying, oh, it's my turn again. See, I think there's a real battle that's going on right now, and I think there's people at the top that are frankly sick of losing. And look, here's what people don't get, I don't think. And I think that David touched on this earlier on. At the state level, they're happy that Florida is red. That's their goal, is to make Florida is red. To make sure that, we don't have to worry about Florida being a swing state. And if that means that a few counties like Osceola and Hillsborough and, Miami-Dade and a couple of other have to be sacrificed for that, well, then so be it. I mean, and frankly, in a state perspective, that's it's probably not bad politics. But what that means is that we're on our own. And what that means is that we have to be the ones to do the work like David was talking about. And to do that effectively, you have to have leadership at the top that's willing to do more than just do better than last time. It's just that simple.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I agree also, but I would say that even before those tactical, even strategic level leadership ability, I think that it's easier to find a leader today who can manage a victorious campaign than it is to find someone with integrity and values who cares about their country before they care about their own ambition. And that's what we need to find first. To me, that's the crisis level change agent that we need, is somebody with actual integrity who can tell the party, you know what? We're not going to do that here in Osceola County. I'm not going to rig the elections here. I'm not going to kick out my members. I'm not going to do that to this person. I'm not going to allow you to defame this person. I'm not going to allow you to take this money and waste it. And if I find the person that can actually be honest and trusted, someone that I can trust, right, with my love of my country, then I believe that person will be better able to find the other people who are good at all of those other things and surround themselves by those people and involve more people and bring in younger people and bring in people of color and bring in people who are willing to work, not just talk at a party and share a hamburger, and that's, I think, is and that's another thing that David was saying, because he was right? He's talking about somebody who can inspire people. And, sometimes that requires debate, because I agree, it's not about one person. It's not Joanne. I don't know. We got Joanne specifically, right? But with that, it's that whole leadership team. They've given up. Something happened. Something was said to them where they believe that they're in a position that they are not empowered sufficiently to fight back. Of course, Mark Cross looks like he just gave up intentionally for his own ambition, right? He gave up so that he could perpetually be somebody in the GOP, whether people want him there or not. But everyone else there is like, I can't, I have a responsibility. Your responsibility is to the American people first, and I would take somebody, I would prefer to have somebody in leadership who's going to do the right thing, which I believe will lead to people being inspired at the polls, and bring in candidates who can inspire people at the polls, than just people who are going to win. Because here's the thing, I've won before, right? And I've lost. And at the end of the day, the one thing that both of those races have in common is that I never sacrificed my integrity to do it. Either one, in any case. I fought my butt off in both times. I had different outcomes in both my races. But at the same time, at least I never shed my integrity. And it's not that they didn't want to buy it. They wanted to buy my integrity in order to trade. They came with their offers. They came with their junk. They came with all their, prizes, and they came with the carrot, and they came with the stick, right? Well, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think that we need people who are going to bring back the America that we're asking Trump to do.
Yeah, and inspiring leadership, like you said, John. So real quick, I'm going to play a video. It's recent, and I want you to tell me if you were inspired in any way by this speech.
Update everybody on Friday. This last Friday, early voting is underway here in Osceola County, and we're just a few days away from the general election. And all of a sudden, the bureaucrats in Osceola County notified all the candidates that they're actually prohibited from placing political campaign signs outside polling locations and outside the 150-foot no solicitation zone. Further, Osceola County warned all of the candidates that any signs that remain outside the polling locations by Friday night will be removed and destroyed. And this is a desperate attempt by Democrat-run Osceola County government to silence political speech at the last minute. It's election
You know, Tom,
interference. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
If you just watched those 30 seconds of video, you just watched and you just were at every single OCREC meeting for the past 4 or 5 years. That was basically every meeting for the past 4 or 5 years at the REC, at the local Republican Party. That's exactly what it was. Everyone. You just witnessed them all in one 30-second video.
You know, and
I
want to put this out there. I like Mark as a person. He's a really nice guy. But you hear him speak, and this is an opportunity. This was talking about the sign ordinance that they put down a few days during the election, right before the election, where they were saying no signs at the polling locations. This was a press conference that Mark was forced to have, basically, because candidates were upset, and rightfully so. And Mark is there. He has this press conference, and there is just a lack of fire. There is a lack of any passion. It just came off very drawl. And then you cut to another person who got up there and spoke, like this one.
The question I asked was why? Why now? Why, after decades of being able to do this kind of thing, are we just now starting to enforce a law that they think is in place right now? Why now? Second question was, what person wields this kind of power to be able to go ahead and change the entire electoral process inside of Osceola County? What person or persons is able to do that? The fact that we've got one person or somebody that's able to do that ought to scare the daylights out of every single person that's here today.
Yes.
Now, I'm a Navy guy, and I know how to follow rules. So I asked.
So I'm going to cut it short, but that was
I like that speech.
That was an amazing
I like that speech, except for the last part, the Navy part.
And not
that speech right there. There's the fire.
I haven't heard a word he said all night long, but I heard that.
You heard that one, right? You know, that's the fire. That's the passion that we're looking for. And you saw it right there on display. You know, even Disvani, when he came to do the Spanish part, had a little bit more fire and a little bit more passion than Mark did, speaking of the same subject. And there's multiple times that Mark could have done a press conference like this. You know, whether it be when Mary Jane Arrington disenfranchised the St. Cloud voters by not getting them their candidates on their ballots. You know, oops, it was a paperwork error. Or when the 2 times that she violated election laws by printing the party affiliation on the outside of the envelopes so it could be seen. You know, these were opportunities for our local REC chair to speak up, to fight back against these things. And there was crickets, there was nothing. He's forced into a box during this election, and then we finally get it, but there's no passion, there's no fire. It's just kind of like, oh, well, you know, we have a problem. And
okay, we had a not to take away anything from anyone, okay? And I also like Mark personally. He's a smart, intelligent person. He is a very good strategist. Obviously, he's been winning. He has stayed in power. He's done what he's had to do. But I'm not talking about those characteristics, and I'm not talking about personally. I'm talking about, if you look what are the qualifications for somebody to lead a party? What do we need as Americans, right? Jim, you're in the Navy, and if you imagine if you have a boat captain who shows up drunk every day to everything he comes to. right? I mean, if Angelica, if you had a boss and they came every day to your work and they were drunk every day, how would you feel? You know, and Mark is not a drunk. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when somebody lets you down with the most important things, like an election for leadership of an organization, how much rope do you allow them to take? How much rope?
It's not even
Because
just the elections at the party level, John. It's the
that's what I mean.
Three elections locally. I mean that we
That's what-
dropped the ball.
Absolutely. You just hit it on the head because he's not taking enough rope to hang himself. He's taking enough rope to hang all the candidates and all the Republicans in Osceola County.
Yeah.
And that's the problem here. So is it the party? Right? Is it these psycho establishment people here in Osceola County? People like Ricky Booth, people like Erica Booth, people like these fake Republicans here that they only care about maintaining power and contracts. Listen, when you have issues like spending $350-400 million on a place like Neo City that brings in literally 100 jobs, 10 years later, there's a problem going on. And if you're telling me that these people are winning re-elections after that, that's BS. There's 5,000 votes in this county that are unaccounted for that do not make sense how they happen. And it could be just people voting in consensus, right? Voting in groups that they control 5,000 votes and they can vote the same way no matter what. But these elections don't make sense. And our party's not doing anything about it to capitalize on the situation that every day. Listen, Trump took the disastrous country that Biden and Harris made and turned it into the largest election win in decades. We have a disastrous county, more disastrous than what our country looked like under Trump, but we can't win a single local election?
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And the people of Osceola County are pissed. The people of Osceola County, Democrat and Republican, are pissed. They are up in arms. They get up every day for a 3-hour traffic ride.
Yeah.
This county is a disaster. The police should be like kicking in the doors of our county commissioners. But what we're doing is celebrating them on the footsteps of the county commission building with a cackling Kamala version, a white gay Kamala cackling on the steps of our county commission building. There's something wrong, but we don't do anything about that. We don't address any of these things. Listen, I might be a simple soldier. I might be a simple guy. I might be just, somebody who doesn't have the couth to be in politics. But damn it, these things are important. And Jim so rightly is talking about winning and losing races, but our local party's talking about how good they're doing while we're losing these races.
Yeah.
So at some point, it has to be about people. It has to be about the performance of individuals on a daily basis, because right now we should be licking our wounds and getting back in action. Trump won. It had nothing to do with Florida. This was a tier 2 state.
Yeah.
But we lost every seat down. We gained one more rhino in Tallahassee. This was a moral, electoral, strategic, tactical loss. And we have to fix that. A failure. Absolutely. And it was intentional.
We should not be patting, especially locally here, Republicans should not be patting ourselves on the back. Yes, we're very happy that we got President Trump. Absolutely. We're very happy that Rick Scott kept his seat. Absolutely. We're glad that Florida is a red state. But we should not be patting ourselves on the back about Osceola County whatsoever. The media can talk it up and say that Osceola County turned red because, yes, we voted for Trump. But locally, we lost 4 seats. We failed miserably on every other level. We didn't get the most important seat elected, which was Jim and the supervisor of elections. There should be no pats on the back. No job well done here. Not at all.
No, not at all.
Jim, so what are your thoughts on basically what we've been talking about here as far as the local level and dropping the ball?
Here's what I think. Going back to what David said, we've just got to do better. When we talk about, and you guys have touched on it, winning the state and Rick Scott winning and, Donald Trump winning. And then before that, DeSantis won. And those are all great and good. But look, when we're at a point where we're not considered a battleground state anymore, where we're a red state, Osceola County is on our own. And that may not seem like much to other people, but when it comes to how our kids are taught, when it comes to the traffic inside of the area, when it comes to making sure that we have people that you can trust running our elections, when it comes to making sure that we have a sheriff, that's not compromised in any way, when we look at all those different things, it's important that at the local level, right here in Osceola County, that we do what we have to win. And first of all, we have to make sure that we have somebody that's qualified to run for every seat all the time, every time. And our goal needs to be not to do better than last time, but to actually win every one of those seats.
Absolutely.
And so in order to win those seats, there's some things that you have to have in place. You've got to have an effective precinct strategy in place. You've got to be able to have, you have to have people know what they can do and ask them to be involved. There has to be an organizational structure in place. There has to be a communications plan for every single Republican inside of this county. We need to upbeat, our voter registration and the way we do it. Right now, we've got one very dedicated woman who's trying to grab whoever she can going to churches. That's great, but we're losing the battle in voter registration. And for goodness sakes, we've got to be able to raise some money. I mean, right now, as we speak, we've got 66,917 Republicans inside of this county. We've only got less than 100 people that basically show up to meetings. And you have to ask yourself why. That all must change. If we have any hope of winning anything at the local level, all this needs to change. Now, we could talk about, people and individuals and everything else. We all have got to make a concerted effort. Like David Pollack was saying earlier, we've just got to do better. We've got to stop eating our own. Instead of focusing on kicking people's out and creating enemies lists, let's worry about getting the Democrats out of here. Let's worry about doing the things that we have to do to make sure that we've got a plan in place to go ahead and win in 2026. Listen, we should already be working on that. The fact that we're not scares me to death.
Couldn't agree more.
That's my thoughts.
Jim, one of the issues is that they not only did they kick everybody out when the last REC elections happened, but then they refused to allow anybody in. The only people that they have sworn in are people that they pick and choose. They're cherry picking people to become members as long as they'll pledge allegiance to their particular reign over the party. So, I mean, you've seen this, right, Angelica? I mean, they're refusing to swear people in. They just swore Laura McAdams in recently, just before the primary, I think. And she's the only person who got kicked out from that time that was allowed back in so far.
Wow.
Yeah. So after the 2022, I will say maybe about 10 members. Were sworn in because there was really no meetings like.
Exactly.
There was no so the meetings were like some celebration or there was no quorum. Without quorum, nobody can be sworn in. And that was, and I mean, I think about this, that they were able to drag it for close to 2 years. So
not having meetings, not swearing people in, incredible.
Yeah, so the option B, to be able to become members, is what people did recently, that I guess is done every 4 years on a presidential election, and it was to run as a precinct committee man or committee woman. But in addition to that, they had to file what it was the loyalty oath 30 days after the primaries. So that's where the whole thing is, like, did everybody file it, or the people that file it, do they still have them over there? So nobody knows what's happening. But honestly, we shouldn't have to be put in through these all these steps just to be part of the party.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. And I'm sorry, Jim, I'm going to cut to you in a second. Part of the reason why I never ever have been a member of the executive committee is because they make you jump through so many hoops to become a member. And now, since the last time that they had their elections at the REC, they made it even harder. So that's a lot of the reason why you don't have people come into these meetings, because I can't even become a member unless I do this and I do this and I do this, and then I can become a member. People have enough on their plate right now. People have enough on
Imagine
their
if
plate.
they were to use that energy. Imagine if they were to use that energy that they use to see how they prevent people to join. Imagine if they were using the opposite. Let's see how we can get all these many more people to join us. Imagine where we could be today. But it's like the opposite. It's like I don't know. It's like one door is closing, and then somebody finds another one. They try to rush to go through that door, and then they close that one too, and then they try to close the next one. So so we're like here, like trying to push through, say, let me in. We want to do something good for the county, and we are told, no, you cannot do it. That's kind of like how it has gone. Hopefully, I'm gonna stay positive for Tuesday, and I do hope that people realize that the right person needs to be elected. I'm not sure if they're going to allow any candidates to speak. Last time they didn't allow anyone to speak. So, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what's if they're going to switch the rules on Tuesday. We don't know which rules they're going to be using, to be honest.
Yeah. Jim.
So, along those same lines, I want you to just think about the possibilities of this, and picking up on what Angelica said. Just talk about precinct committee men. Right now in Osceola County, there are 141 registered precincts. For each one of those, you get a precinct committee man and a committee woman, which brings it up to 242 people. For every precinct it's got over 1,000 people, you add another precinct committee man or committee woman. That means inside of our REC, we ought to have 400 and some odd people that are actively working. Now, just think about this for a second. If we actually had that number of people going, imagine what a difference it would have been just for me alone. I needed 2,459 petitions. If you tell everybody to go out and get 10, that's done. That means that I didn't have to spend $10,000. Donnie Martinez didn't have to spend $10,000. All these candidates didn't have to do that. They could have used that extra money for ads, for emails, for signs, for mail outs, for a whole bunch of different things. Just that one thing alone would make a marked difference in how this executive committee runs and the success we can have. But we've got to stop eating our own. We've got to make sure, listen, we exist for one reason, and that's to elect Republican candidates, hopefully conservative Republican candidates. And everything we do, every act we commit, every word that we speak ought to be towards that purpose and that purpose only. And if we do just that one thing, we can change things markedly.
Absolutely, Jim. Absolutely, Jim. Angelica, real quick, the letter that was sent to the committee men and committee women, accusing them of being FRA members and that there was a grievance filed against them. Now, you and I are members of ACRA, and are we allowed to talk about the call that we were on the other day and what was said as far as the lawyer said?
I wouldn't do that right now.
Okay. But what I'm trying to get at is if you receive that letter, you should not be afraid that this letter has no standing whatsoever. It is as phony as a $3 bill. There should be nothing for them to fear. This should not prevent them from going and trying to vote on Tuesday.
No.
In fact, that's what the purpose of these letters are, is to scare people. There's no other purpose for this letter. If they're not worried about your due process when they give you 7 days and they don't care what your response is, they still kick you out. So it's not even a due process purpose. It's simply to scare you, to prevent you from showing up, or to get you to quit an organization that you may believe in order for you to be able to participate. They're blackmailing people, they're scaring people, and that's it. But let me say this. Everything that Jim said was really pertinent, because it is eating your own. But what do you do with somebody who's already been proven to be a cannibal and who's got blood dripping from their lips? What happens? I mean, do we just say, oh, you know what? Look, right now, everybody's reeling over the fact that Joe Biden pardoned Hunter Biden, right? For all of his crimes, unknown.
That's breaking news that just came down. Right. I was going to say something about it earlier, but yes.
So here's the thing. Are we gonna pardon the leadership of the REC who are still perpetrating these barbarities against conservatives who made this all possible? Are we going to do that? That's the thing. And I'm not saying that they need to be anything bad needs to happen to them. I'm not saying that we need to run them out of town or anything like that. What I'm saying is, do they deserve to lead this organization? And if the people decide that they do, then we really have to question the wisdom of the people who are in this executive committee, because what does that say about them? Yeah. You know, there's only one group of people that are okay sitting next to a cannibal while they're having lunch. Another cannibal. I am not okay. I'm not okay having people lead an organization that I'm a member of that believes in cheating, that believes in lying, that believes in destroying the candidacy of other people. This is not what our founders intended. This is not what they believed in. This is not why people have fought for their country. These are the reasons why people don't go to politics. It's why people don't talk about it at Thanksgiving in a peaceful way. It's why people don't get involved. And I think that needs to change. Everybody got involved because of Trump. Forget all the other reasons. Trump is 90% of why people went out and they voted, okay? Because they believed one of two things. Trump is 100% better than what we have, or number two, Trump was going to fix the problems that the Biden administration did. But now what are we going to do with the opportunity that we've had, where we've brought all these people to the polls? Real people, not dead people like Democrats. Now what do we do? Now we're going to say, come to the party. Like Jim said, right? Grow the party. Bring people to the party. Come. They're going to come and they're going to witness, like those 40 new members did at that last election. They're going to witness a sham election by the Republican Executive Committee. And they're going to be like, this is why I'm not a member. This is why I don't get involved. This is why I only voted for Trump. This is why I didn't vote in those local elections. This is why I hate you guys.
So I think the fact I like I said, I want to stay positive for Tuesday. The fact that we have some of the people from the leadership that I think they feel already enough is enough, and they are looking where we are as a county, and that we are not moving on the right direction, and that's why they have decided to stand up and give the support to the right person. I think that's perhaps a way to see some light.
But are they still running?
That is some light. And until Tuesday, we won't be able to know, But that is a step forward, because that didn't happen. That didn't happen in 2022. Right, but now in 2024, they see, where people are. They see what has happened to the party, how people are upset, and
but they didn't care for 2 years, and they're doing it again. Now they're trying to arrange, as Jim was saying earlier, they're trying to arrange who's going to take what position. So here's the thing. Let me get to this ABC moment. If you haven't come to the conclusion yourself. The right thing for the leadership, and listen, let me say this. Let me make a disclosure here. My opinion is my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of Jim Trautz. I'm not speaking on behalf of Angelica. I'm not speaking on behalf of Citizen Tom. These are our own individual opinions. This is my opinion, my belief. And if I were a member of the executive committee and I had any honor whatsoever, I would resign. If I were Mark Cross, I would resign. That's the only way that you get the safe base. That's the only way that you can show that you have any honor. If I were any of the members of the executive board, with the exception of John Fields, because John Fields is the money guy and he's done a good job managing the finances of the party. And he also has not gotten involved in any of the disparities that are causing the problems. So I would say that every other member should resign or resign from the party, really. But at the very least, be silent during the elections, take a step back, and allow other people to come and who have integrity. They have a vote just like everyone else. Come forward and participate in that. But if I were Mark Cross, I would even resign as committee man.
Yeah, but just like John said, each of our statements, everything that we're saying is our own personal thoughts and feelings. It doesn't apply to everyone within this show and this group here. So we've gone on for quite a while right now. Maybe we should go for final thoughts. Jim, let's start with you. Final thoughts. How are we going to change things here in Osceola County? How are we going to get a real red wave to come through Osceola County?
Well, let me just tell you, when I ran for Congress some 15 years ago, we had a saying that said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always had.
Bingo.
And I really believe that in order to get us a red wave in Osceola County, we need a change in leadership. Frankly, to me, it doesn't matter who it is, as long as they are able to deliver on those things that we've talked about. If it were me, there's 5 things that I can look at right now that I say it got to be done. You have to have an effective precinct strategy. You have to have an organizational relationship where people know who's in charge, who's doing what committee, who do they talk to if they have an idea or a suggestion. You have to have a communications plan. Again, we've got almost 67,000 Republicans in the county, and we've only got 100, maybe a little bit more than 100 in the executive committee. That's not good enough. We've got to do a better job of communicating with people. We need to up our voter registration game. We're losing the battle. And I'll tell you, if you really want to go ahead and create a red wave, if you take care of that voter registration problem and put us on equal footing with the Democrats and the MPAs, it changes the ball game. And then finally, my goodness, we've got to be able to fundraise. I mean, I don't know what kind of money we have. Robert gets up and he gives his report and what have you, but I don't know what the money's being spent on. I don't know how it's being spent or anything else. What I do know is that we don't have enough of it because I didn't see any of it. So I think those are some things that we can do. I think if we do those things, we can see change relatively quickly. But it's a change of mindset, Tom and John, more than anything else. It takes people willing to go ahead and say, look, we acknowledge there's a problem. We know it needs to be fixed, and we're willing to go ahead and fix it.
Absolutely, Jim. And I just wanted to say, I think you're the guy to fix it. I'll say that right here, right now. I think you're the guy to fix it, and I'll tell you why. You were a congressional candidate in the past in Virginia. You just ran for supervisor of elections, ran a great integrity-filled campaign. Your political endorsements are incredible. Roger Stone, the Republican Liberty Caucus, the FRA, America First Insight, Latinos United for Conservative Action, Patriot Legal Immigrants USA. You just have so much that you could bring to the table here in Osceola County, so much that you could do to really bring that on. I'm inspired by you. I know many that are. We were all pulling for you in this supervisor of elections race, and really super disappointed that we didn't get you there. It's just a shame, and I'm sorry. But Angelica, you have any final thoughts?
Yes, to turn Osceola red. So I always say this, it's not gonna depend on one single group, but it's gonna depend on many of the Republican groups that are in the county. What happens on Tuesday will mark that path. Basically, if we have good leadership on Tuesday, it will make things to go a lot easier. The efforts to be more productive, and it will be so much easier for every other group actually to be able to work with the local REC. We I think Osceola County is so big. We have the Liberty Caucus that usually meets on the sites of celebration area. I would love to see them to kind of like pick up a little more their grassroots on that area until we have a more settled working REC that can, that they can actually say, well, I do have now a club here in Celebration, and I have a club in Kissimmee, just like other RECs have done it, so that every single corner is touched. Then you also had the Republican Hispanic Assembly. If they actually start focusing, to be more involved with the Hispanic, like more boots on the ground here in Osceola County, and of course, FRA will continue the work that FRA does. So um, there is hope. Um, we'll we're gonna pray that things will go fine on Tuesday, and it's gonna mark. That's basically how it's gonna impact the county. If it's in the right hands, we're gonna see a real right movement. If it doesn't fall in the right hands, then it's just gonna be for any other organization to work harder. Not that they don't have to work hard, um, but the efforts can be um, combined and just work better, just as a whole.
Angelica, it is working harder when you have to work against each other, and that shouldn't be where we're at,
Correct.
especially between the REC and the FRA. We should be working hand in hand and together to get these Republicans elected to office. Jon, take us home.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me thank everyone who's been watching. We have a lot of people watching the show, and please like and share the show. But thank you for staying with us. I think we have had almost the same number of people watching throughout the entire thing. This is an issue that people care about. It's an issue that is important to people in Osceola and throughout the state. We have people in Hillsborough County who are saying the same thing is happening there. We have people who, through their observations, are basically proving that we're right, that this is an issue. They care about it, and this is important, and it needs to change, most importantly. I think that if these elections on Tuesday go in a really negative way, then we're going to have a really negative outcome for Republicans locally, which in my opinion is what the local RAC leadership and the local establishment want. I think that they win when the grassroots people lose, the establishment wins. I mean, that's, it's a seesaw. So only one side can be up, one has to be down. And we'll know if the leadership of the REC is with the establishment and they're on that side of the seesaw on Tuesday. That's the bottom line. And I think that something has to be done. Then if that's not the case, because listen, we in Osceola County, we have the FRA, we have the RLC, we have the RNHA, we have the REC itself, we have the Women's Crusaders. The majority of those groups, the REC, the RNHA, all those people are active because of what happened at the last REC meeting. So what happens now? They lose more members. So at some point, if this goes down, then we lose our local Republican Party, that brand, and we're left with these other groups, which is fine because those groups have been proven to be pretty effective. But it's sad that we won't be able to be members of a party organization and apparatus that has integrity. and that has, like justice in mind and the truth. They're no better than the Democrats. Who wants to be part of an organization that is as bad as the Democrats? It's already shameful enough to admit, I'm part of the Democrat leadership team. I mean, who wants that? Who wants to admit that? Well, the local GOP leadership team will be known to be as bad as they are. Right. And that's not what we want. I think that, number one, all of you need to come out to that. Listen, come out on Tuesday at the Elks Lodge, okay, in District 4 on Kings Highway. Come to the meeting. It's on Tuesday at the Elks Lodge. I think it's at 6 p.m. Come. It doesn't matter if you're a member of the executive committee or you are not a member. If you want to become a member at some point in the future, come. If you want nothing to do with the party, but you want to have a role and say and a presence to show that you believe in integrity in the leaders of our Republican movement in Osceola County, then come. And if they kick you out, which is quite possible because they did that last time, right? They had a deputy sheriff there last time in ridiculous form. There was not a violent, not one moment of conflict. But if they do that again.
Wait a minute. Somebody has their sound on one of their devices. Turn it off. All right.
But if they do that again, then at least stay. And the people who believe in integrity and leadership will be outside the meeting and we'll come up with a way forward that does not include the party or the GOP. And we will, as Americans, file grievances through members that stay in regarding the leadership and so on. So we'll decide what we're going to do. But come on Tuesday, 6 p.m., Elks Lodge. If they don't allow us to be part, then we will go and do something else. But, so please come to that meeting and make yourself known to be a member who cares about the future of our county and who wants to be involved. So,
absolutely.
Listen, I appreciate you, everyone who's watching. I appreciate you, Jim. I know that you can barely hear me. And Angelica, thank you for coming so much. I really appreciate you two guys as leaders of the conservative movement.
Absolutely.
This has been a long show. I appreciate. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate everyone who stayed all this time. And we'll see what happens. And listen, America, come out, do your thing. I believe that the right thing happens in this country for the right reasons. People come out at the right time. They came out for Trump, and I think they're going to come out for this. It's important. It's an important issue. So let all your friends know. Come, bring everybody. We'll have barbecue outside there, if nothing else. We'll go across the street, and I'll buy everybody a shot.
We get some barbecue.
So listen, thank you. God bless you. This has been another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. As we wrap up, we had these two great people. If you want to be more, if you have opinions, please leave them in the comments. We'll talk about it more. If you have ideas for another special, let us know. If you want to join us on the show, and an open invitation to Mark Cross and to Joanne and to everyone in that leadership group and to everyone in the party to be heard. This is not a show where we hide. This is not a show where we prevent people from speaking. This is a show where we have the dialogue out in the open.
Yeah.
So come on the show, be heard. If you're of a difference of opinion, feel free to reach out. Let us know. We'll put you on. So thank you. God bless you. On behalf of me, School Board Member Jon Arguello, and my great friend here, Citizen Tom Lord, we are eternally grateful to everyone who's listening and watching. We'll see you We'll see you
later
this week.
Later this week, Big America show. We're going to talk about this Biden pardoning his son after he said he wasn't going to do it.
And more.
I hate to say I told you so, but yes, we'll be.
Yeah, we knew
that.
it.
Absolutely.
We knew it.
Absolutely. All right, we'll see you then.
Well, I mean, I was entertained, to be honest.
I think it is rich beyond measure. The fact that a school board member that has tens of millions of dollars of conflict of interest before this board has the courage to come up here and talk about anyone's behavior. If anyone should be ashamed of themselves, sir, it should be you.
And I'm in favor of you being able to speak your mind, no matter what. That's how we get, that's, remember when we were kids, right? And you had a problem with somebody, and then your dad would kick you out to go fight with that kid, and then you shake hands, then you go home, and then you become friends officially.
and they're trying to, take this word and give it meaning that it doesn't have. Like our entire country needs to go through a fasting. You see all of these new age hippies, right? They're constantly fasting. They're doing starvation diets, or they won't eat for this. What is it called? Like some kind of
intermittent fasting.
Intermittent.
It's not just us, and not just fans of President Trump, MAGA Republicans. We're not the only ones that see it.